Okay, there's eye contact first. Okay, so step number one is body language. You want to mirror body language. Obviously, there's no chair right now, so I couldn't sit. But if I was like sitting one-on-one, I'll sit down and I will have this conversation with him and I'll mirror his body language to create what? Rapport. Okay, very good. That's step number one, including eye contact. All right, what else? What else happened? What else did you notice? Yes, I repeated back the scenario, okay? I repeated back the scenario. Very good. So we're gonna talk about specifically how to do that. Very good. What else did you notice? I asked him a question. That's right. Very good. What else did you notice? One more. Yeah, that's body language. I was mirroring him. I was using these gestures. Yes, Isaac. Very good, Isaac. Calling someone's name is an auditory what? Anchor. Exactly. People like to hear the name. That's going to create some emotional response when they hear people hear their name. Yes. One more. Yes. You interpreted like a feeling. Exactly, Nori. That's what I was looking for. That's called the empathy part. And what did I say to empathize? That must be confusing for you. Exactly. All right, good. So the 5 steps of listening. Okay. This is not going to be a new workbook, so this is a summarization of everything that's in your workbook. Okay, I'm going to summarize in 5 steps. Step number 1, mirroring the other person's body language. So we talked about this morning about the importance of mirroring and creating rapport. Okay, that's step number 1. Step number 2, you want to scan for keywords. What's the word? Keywords. What are keywords? What do you think Juan's keywords were? I just want to grab 2 of those keywords. That's it. He interrupted me. Okay, he jumped in. Actually, he just jumped in. That's the word. That's a keyword. And then there's one more word he said in the end. What is it? What other word? Yell them out. What's that? Did he say? I don't know. He might. I don't know. What else? He asked me specifically to respond. Okay, very good. That's one keyword. Very good. Okay, one more. This one more keyword he said. One, do you remember? Yeah. Interrupted. Yeah, it's interrupted. That's a keyword. He kept saying this. I got interrupted, and then he interrupted me. Okay, so all your job is to scan for these keywords and just get 2 of these keywords. So first, let's understand why. What are keywords? Keywords are words that there are emotional attachment behind it. There's what? Emotional attachment behind it. So why is it important to grab or grasp these emotions? Why is it important to grab these emotions? Why? Connection. That's right. Because we connect on an emotional level. We don't connect on a logical level. Matter of fact, logic separates us. Emotions, bring us together. Okay, exactly. All right, good. So how would you know that there are emotions behind a certain word? How would you know? How can you tell? Repetition is one of them. Is a clue. What else? Tone. Who said tone? Tone, Lauren. Exactly. So sometimes you stress about it. There's a certain tone of voice that ranges. That's how you tell there's a keyword right there. There's emotions right there. One more. One more clue. Gestures, body language, right? You can tell he did this. Like, oh, I got interrupted, and he did this whole head nod with it, and with the gesture comes along with it. So I know there's emotions right there. There are emotions right there. Okay? So my job is to look for clues in his body language and his tone of voice with certain words. And what would I do with these words? I'll repeat them back. That's step number 3. Exactly. Step number 3 is you want to repeat back these keywords or key phrases in the same sequence that the speaker said them, in the same sequence. Why is it important to repeat these events in the same sequence? Why? These keywords in the same sequence. Why? What's that? Exactly. We talked about this morning about this internal representation through the movie and a picture, yes? So when people are speaking, when they're telling us a story or anything like that, they are telling us a story. It's like a movie playing in their head, and they're playing that movie for us. Does that make sense? So when you repeat this sequence in the same order, it's like you're replaying the movie back for them in the same order that it happened. Which creates what? Rapport, right? Because nobody wants to watch a movie from end to beginning. That would be very confusing, wouldn't it? Okay, so you're repeating back from the beginning to end the same sequence of events that happen. So in Juan's case, if I go say, you know what, Juan, I got it. So the boss was upset because you interrupted him, and knowing that you were speaking in the beginning, and he asked you to speak, that must be very confusing for you. Okay, that would have not landed the same way because I went from end to beginning. So you want to go with a sequence of events from beginning to end. Does that make sense? Yeah? All right, good. So step number 4, you want to empathize. What's the word? Empathize. So what is empathy? Exactly. Putting yourself in the shoes and seeing the world from their own eyes. Exactly. So why is that important? Why do you think it's important to empathize with people? What does that do? Trust. What else? Connection.
First seek to understand and then be understood.
First seek to understand, then to be understood. Very good. So with empathy, if there's any conflict, if there's any tension, do you think when you empathize with someone, would that escalate the tension or would that diffuse it? It diffuses it, wouldn't it? Let me share with you a short story that I was in San Francisco airport last October. And it was a Thursday, and I was supposed to have a training in Hawaii on Friday, the next day. I know, poor me, right? Yeah. So I could use a hug, by the way. 5 hours travel and all that. But so the point is, I never been to Hawaii at the time, and my girlfriend at the time, which is my wife now, she never been there either. So I figured, I can finish the training on Friday, and then Saturday and Sunday, I can just, on my dime, I can just go explore the island. So she is traveling with one airline, and I'm supposed to follow her like half an hour later. Okay? Now she took off, and what happened to my flight? Get delayed. For how long? 5.5 hours. How do you know? Were you with me? Were you the one that? How did you? 5.5 hours I got delayed, which means what? Now she doesn't know. That's one. By the time that she gets there, I'll probably be on the plane myself. She doesn't know what's going on. Okay, the reservation is under my name, car rental, the hotel, everything under my name. So now, which means I have to make all these phone calls and send all these messages, communicate all that stuff to her. So when she comes back, she gets there, she have to read it and understand what needs to be done. So obviously, I was not in a good state, right? So I go to the agent. And I just want to ask him, like, hey, any way I can just jump on a different plane, a different airline, I'm willing to pay extra, a different route, whatever it is. And automatically what he started doing was start defending himself. He was saying, you know what, this is company policy, safety first, mechanical problem, there's nothing we can do about it. And on an intellectual level, I got it. It made sense. But for some reason, I start feeling furious. How many of you have been in situations like that? Okay? Why?
He wasn't listening.
Yes, I had it that he didn't care. He just didn't care. Okay? He didn't care. So I asked for the supervisor. Manager comes out and he's like, wow, you never been to Hawaii and now you have to wait 5.5 hours and your girlfriend is already there and it's on her way there and that means you have to make all this reservation change. That must be very frustrating for you. And I was like, yeah. Though he didn't end up doing anything for me, but for some reason I felt okay waiting for 5.5 hours afterwards. How many been in situations like that? Yeah? Okay, that's the power of empathy, folks. Empathy is the #1 tool they teach in customer service. #1 tool. Okay? If any customer is complaining, any tension going on there, just by empathizing and understanding where they're coming from, boom, it's just like diffuses that tension or the emotions right there. Okay? So that's another powerful tool, not just to help others manage their emotions, it will help you manage your emotions. Why? Because when you empathize with someone, when you're relating to someone, now you're not in your own head, now you're there. You're not here, you're there. And when you're there, now you're not worried about your own concerns, you're not taking things personal because you're seeing it from their own eyes. Does that make sense? Yeah? Okay, that's empathy. And how would that sound like when you're communicating to someone? How did that sound with one? What did I say? That must have been confusing for you. Okay, it could be that must have been frustrating for you. That must have been exciting. That must have been hard. Whatever that is. okay, you can just say it. Or I would have felt the same way too. As long as you communicate it, not keep it inside. Because most of us, we empathize with people, but we don't communicate that. We keep it inside. And people don't know that, right? Finally, step number 5, ask a question. What kind of question? There are 3 types of questions, and that's in your workbook also. There are open-ended questions, there's closed-ended questions, and there are clarifying questions. So when would you use open-ended questions? You want to gather more information? That will be more like clarifying questions, okay? Open-ended questions. How many of you are managers? Raise your hand. Okay, very good. How many of you are parents? Raise your hand. Okay, so regardless if you're manager or parents, you can use this tool that's called open-ended question to do what? To help others come up with their own solutions. Versus you fix it for them, you ask them questions such as, so what have you done about it? Or what can you do in order to make sure this would not happen in the future? Okay? What's that? The 5 whys. Okay, so the 5 whys was what, when, why, where, and who? Kind of? Okay, no, I'm not familiar with that. What is that, Bill? Uh-huh. Uh-huh. Got it. Yeah. And he's saying to himself, or he's saying to the others? More information. Okay, got it. That's interesting. Never experienced that. Okay, good. So with asking the question, open-ended question, so if you have the answer, if you really know, if someone is sharing with you a problem and you know the answer, you know, if you can just give them that one tip, that's going to help them solve that problem, ask, hey, can I offer you a suggestion? Okay? Can I contribute something to you? Can I share something with you? And get a yes first. And it's like, yeah, sure. Or you can help, yeah, sure. Now you can tell them, you know what? You might want to try this. Or I suggest that you can try this. Or I recommend that you try this. Or to look into this. Okay? Ask them before you go ahead. It's like, yeah, you should be doing this. And you should be doing that. You should be doing this. Okay? So that's one way you can use this open-ended question for, is to help them come up with their own solutions. And most of the time, people have their own solutions. They don't need solutions from us. Okay? And you're helping, you know, if you're a manager, you're helping your employees come up with their own solutions, especially the complainers. People who complain about the problem, it's like, okay, great. What can you do about it? Okay? How can you make sure that this won't happen again? And now when it's coming out of their mouth, now they have accountability for it. Didn't you ask for the accountability this morning? Okay? How to create accountability. This is one way you can create accountability. When somebody comes over to you with a problem, ask a question. Don't give them the solutions, because you can feed them fish, but you want to teach them how to fish, right? That'll be much more effective, wouldn't it? Okay. So when you say, it's like, okay, what can you do about it? Or don't come to me with a problem unless you have 2 possible solutions for it. Now you're training them to come up with solutions versus having to come up with problems. Make sense? Also, another technique that I learned recently from Tony Robbins, and he talks about anytime you hear a complaint, ask the person, what is the question? So let's say a complaint will be, oh, we're out of Xerox. And great. Now you ask, okay, so what's your question? The question is, how can we get Xerox paper? Okay, great. Now you know how to answer that. But when people come up with a problem, it's like they're coming with this baggage, and it's like they're dropping it on you. Okay? When you tell them, okay, what's the question? Now with that question, now they can come up with their own solutions. Okay?